No, it isn't. Don't make me sit here and explain the X-Files to you. It's the goddamn X-Files.
I think you're forgetting how old this show is.
Oh no.
And how young some of your audience are.
I'll try not to think about it.
And how old you are. Big Damn Love will return after this bout of existential despair.
So, the X-Files. The X-Files follows two FBI agents, the improbably named Fox Mulder and his partner Dana Scully, as they investigate the titular X-Files.
Are you familiar with the so-called X-Files?
That's the FBI's neglected collection of unsolved, mysterious cases. Mulder is a staunch believer in the paranormal, and he's convinced that his sister was abducted by aliens. No, not those aliens, when they were children, and that his work on the X-Files will eventually lead him to her. Scully, on the other hand, is a trained doctor and also a skeptic, assigned to report on the validity of Mulder's work.
Am I to understand that you want me to debunk the X-Files project, sir?
Each episode presents us with a new mystery to solve, and as the series progresses, the agents uncover a insidious government conspiracy, thanks to Mulder's mysterious informant known only as Deep Throat.
Who is this Deep Throat character? I mean, we don't know anything about him.
So that's it. That's the premise of the X-Files, and that's kind of all you need to know. The show premiered in the US in 1993 and came over to the BBC over here about a year later, which is where I discovered it. Now, even though I was very young and not, in all honesty, too young to be watching it, it had a huge impact on me. I'd been raised on a diet of sci-fi almost since birth, thanks to my dad and his love of the genre. I was no stranger to Doctor Who and Star Trek. Our VHS copy of Star Wars was on heavy rotation, and I was voraciously devouring the school reading program so I could get to the grown-up stuff where the good books were, like the John Wyndhams and the H.G. Wells. I was also big on the unexplained, and especially UFOs and aliens. No, not those ones. And so when this show came along and I sneaked a viewing past my bedtime, I was hooked. My parents, being the sort of open-minded liberals that they are, were quite happy to indulge me. They reasoned that I know when something was too scary for me, and if I came across something that was too much for me to handle, then the nightmares would be my own punishment. And scared I was, but that fear was overridden by sort of a fascination and an instant liking for the characters of Mulder and Scully. This first season isn't the best season of the show, and it also isn't my favourite. But I kind of felt I needed to cover it because A, I do love it, and B, it sets up so much of the great stuff that's to come. You can't have the later, better seasons without this first really strong season. And the show wouldn't have been the success it was if this season wasn't great. Now, I'm not going to touch on every episode because there's 24 of them, and not all of them are great, but the vast majority of them are really good, because there's only really one clunker in this whole season, and that's space, and boy is space bad. I will go into a few of the highlights later on though, because if you don't want to watch the whole season, there's still a good chunk of it that's well worth watching. First off though, let's come back to why I like Mulder and Scully so much. Mulder's optimism and open-mindedness is a direct result of a deep sense of sadness at the loss of his sister, and he further compensates for it with an almost flippant sense of humour.
Could you help me find my dog? He's a Norwegian elk hound. His name is Heinrich. I use him to hunt moose.
Scully's contrast to this, a reasoned, rational approach to the mysterious, provides a nice source of conflict and tension, but it's also balanced by a deep sense of respect for each other's skill, and that leads to them forming a very close professional bond and a deep bond of loyalty.
Mulder, I wouldn't put myself on the line for anybody but you.
If there's an iced tea in that bag, could be love.
This show was a huge part of the cultural zeitgeist in the early to mid-90s. While it wasn't the first to do it, it did help to popularise the now ubiquitous format of television having a long mythological arc running through a season while mixed in with smaller, more independent Monster of the Week, shall we say, episodes. It had a huge influence, direct or indirect, on shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Lost, Fringe, even the revival of Doctor Who and its spin-off Torchwood. It was the vanguard of a new wave of genre television that gave us things like Dark Skies, Space Above and Beyond, the revival of The Outer Limits, for better or worse, depending on how much you like those shows. This show became a pop culture icon and one of the longest running sci-fi shows ever. So clearly, this season did something right. I feel like there's something here. I think that the show strikes a really great tone. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it leans into the horror elements enough for it to be genuinely scary. Of course, its early 90s TV budget runs up against some limitations, but, solid acting really sells a lot of it, and not just from the leads. There's an array of great guest stars, including a whole bunch of hey, it's that guy moments, and quite a few genre mainstays as well. The show was filmed in Vancouver, so of course you get an awful lot of bits of Canada doubling for America, and Canadians playing Americans. But what that gives it, with the sort of temperate climate of Vancouver, is it gives the whole show a sort of a grey, overcast mood, which really helps this feeling of a shadowy underworld just underneath the normal that's full of scary monsters and government conspiracies and all sorts of strange goings on. It's difficult for me to articulate, but there's just something about this show. It just feels right to me, like it's fulfilling a need that I didn't know I have until it came along, and I realised it was something that I'd wanted all along. So, you want to watch season 1, and you should, but you don't have time to plough through 24 episodes. Well, here's the highlights. Here's the ones you should catch, at least. Episode 1, Pilot, is essential for setting up Mulder and Scully's relationship, establishing Mulder's backstory, and giving us our first glimpses of the conspiracy and the infamous cigarette-smoking man. Episode 2, Deep Throat, introduces Jerry Hardin as Mulder's mysterious informant, gives us our first glimpse of UFOs, and also features a young Seth Green, so that's cool. Episode 3, Squeeze, is the first Monster of the Week episode and features a memorably creepy turn from Doug Hutchinson as a contortionist, liver-eating mutant. Oh, and it also features Donald Logue being a tremendous asshole.
If I can break a case like this one, I'll be getting my bump up the ladder. And you... maybe you won't have to be Mrs. Spooky anymore.
Episode 8, Ice, is a tense homage to John Carpenter's The Thing. The agents and a group of scientists investigate a remote Alaskan outpost where mysteriously an entire research team have died, apparently by their own hand. This episode also features character actor Xander Berkeley, again playing a tremendous asshole. Episode 10, Fallen Angel, deepens the mystery of the conspiracy as the agents race against the military to recover the pilot of a downed UFO. They also meet abductee and UFO hunter Max Fennig, and Marshall Bell turns up as the ruthless Colonel Henderson. Yep, he's a tremendous asshole as well. You see a theme developing. Episode 11, Eve, is a cool little story about cloning experiments, and it's got a creepy pair of murdering twins. So, Yeah, good times. Episode 12, Fire, features Mark Sheppard as a pyrokinetic murderer who wants to burn down members of the English aristocracy so he can steal their wives and teach their kids to smoke cigarettes. Classy dude. Episode 13, Beyond the Sea, is not just a highlight of the season, but also of the series as a whole. Brad Dourif guest stars as a death row inmate who has apparently developed psychic powers, and he offers to help stop a murderer killing again in exchange for a stay of execution. Now, is he for real? Or is he just using the recent death of Scully's father, played by the wonderful Don S. Davis, to sucker the agents in? Episode 17, EBE, once again deepens the mythology arc as Mulder and Scully get caught up in a campaign of disinformation in an effort to hide the truth in plain sight. It also introduces the Lone Gunmen, a trio of conspiracy theorists who would become Mulder and Scully's closest allies. Episode 20, Darkness Falls, is a great Monster of the Week tale that sees Mulder and Scully trapped in the forest with a bunch of prehistoric fireflies that prey at night. It's scarier than it sounds. Episode 21, Tombs, sees Mulder determined to stop a newly released Tombs from killing again, even if it means putting his job on the line. It's also the first time we meet Mitch Pileggi's Walter Skinner, a central character to the show who starts off as the agent superior and eventually becomes a close ally. Finally, episode 24, The Erlenmeyer Flask, brings the overarching story of the season to a shocking climax. It tears down the work the agents have done and leaves them going into the second season with the deck stacked against them. So that's the best of the season. Although, if you have time, it's all on Amazon Prime. I'd recommend watching the whole thing because it's a very strong season of one of the best TV shows ever made. Except for Space. Space sucks. The X-Files is a very important show to me personally. It takes so many great elements of sci-fi and horror and wraps them all up in a great package of mood and tone and character. This will be far from the last time you'll hear me talking about the X-Files on here. We've got another season on the horizon for 2018, and I will be going into later seasons and maybe, if you like it, even individual episodes, the very best of the best. So stay tuned, because I big damn love this series. So that's it. That's another week of Big Damn Love. Thank you for watching. If you want to let us know what you think, comment below. Please like and subscribe if you like what we do so we can do more. And if you want to get hold of us, you can always get us at BigDamnCast on Twitter, BigDamnContact@gmail.com. Listen to the podcast every Friday, and I'll see you, well, Chris will see you back here on next Sunday for another Big Damn Love. Bye-bye. I'm sure there's some...